Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to be reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 17 through 20. Y'all willing, as I try to get through this, bear with me as I try to get through this. Y'all willing? The book of Genesis, chapter 17, verse 1. And it came to be when Abram was 99 years old that Yahweh appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect. This is what the Most High came and said to Abram personally. He personally said to him, these was his words, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me, be perfect. So this is documented words of the Most High. Introducing himself, to Abram. Later be known as Abraham, but right now he's known as Abram. Verse 2, it says, let's go from the top. And it came to be when Abram was 99 years old that Yahweh appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect. Verse 2, and I give my covenant between me and you, and shall greatly increase you. Verse 3, and Abram fell on his face, and Elohim spoke with him, saying, verse 4, as for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall become a father of many nations. Verse 5, and no longer is your name called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, because I shall make you a father of many nations. So this is when he became Abram. Chapter 17 of Genesis, verse 5 is where Abram became Abraham, because this obviously means what it says after. It says, because I shall make you a father of many nations. So him adding to Abram made the name mean a father of many nations. And this is how Abram became Abraham. So, and he's explaining to Abraham, he's going to make his covenant with him, and he's going to be a father of many nations. Verse 6, and I shall make you exceedingly fruitful, and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come from you. So kings, he's explaining to Abram that kings will come from him, and he will be a father of many nations. So we see that Abraham is the father of many nations, not just one nation. We see that Abraham is the father of many nations, not just two nations. We see that Abraham is the father of many nations, not just three nations. You get what I'm putting down. Verse 7. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant to be Elohim to you and your seed after you. So to be God to you and your seed after you. So he's explaining how, he's making a covenant with his bloodline and everyone from his bloodline. So God is not just a God to one bloodline. Well, he's not a God to just one people or one lineage. I'm trying to figure out how to put that. He's not a God to one nation is what I'm basically saying. And this is what he's establishing, and this is the written documented proof of it in the book of Genesis chapter 17. He's not just a God to one nation. He's a God to, he's not just a God to two nations. He's not just a God to those who claim to be, Arab. He's not a God. He's not just a God to those who claim to be Hebrew. He's a God to, obviously more nations than, or people than those that, that we know of, that's, known to be popular. And we're going to see that later. Verse 7, and I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations for an everlasting covenant to be Elohim to you and your seed after you. Verse 8, and I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I shall be their Elohim. He shall be their God. This is what he's promising Abram. This is what we see today. Verse 9, and Elohim said to Abraham, as for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. So this is what he's telling Abraham to let his offspring know, and their offspring and his offspring, and so on and so on. Let the offspring know to guard the covenant. This is what should have been passed down. Guard the covenant, meaning follow his instructions. This is my covenant which you guard between me and you and your seed after you. Every male child among you is to be circumcised. So this is the covenant that he's establishing, is the circumcision. And we're going to later see that, that could be a circumcision of the heart, is what he's truly seeking first and foremost. Verse 11, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of the covenant between me and you. Verse 12, and a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations, he who is born in your house or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed. Verse 13, he who is born in your house and he who is bought with your silver has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. Verse 14, and an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin his life shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. So he's saying, if someone isn't circumcised, they get cut off from the covenant. You know, they get cut off from the Most High and people of the Most High and the nation of the Most High and those, you know. And this was the decision at the time. Verse 15. And Elohim said to Abraham, as for Sarah, your wife, do not call her name Sarah, for Sarah is her name now. So Sarai became Sarah. Sarai became Sarah. So Abram became Abraham in the book of Genesis, chapter 17, verse 5. And Sarai became Sarah in the book of Genesis, chapter 17, verse 15. Excuse me. Verse 16. And I shall bless her and also give you a son by her. And I shall bless her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of peoples are to be from her. So kings of people should, are to come from Sarah. This is what he's explaining to Abram. And it's going to sound crazy to him because he's now 90 years old. 99 to be exact. And he's like, and the Most High is explaining to him like, yo, yeah, you're going to have a son. Verse 17. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed. So this is where Abraham was amused. Like he was like, because obviously 99 then is 99 now. And it was crazy to think that, you'd be able to have a kid or have a son at 99. So this is proof that 99 then is just as, great of an age as 99 is now. 99 years old, being 99 years old now. Because Abraham just couldn't believe, like, this is what he said. This is how he responded to the Most High, telling him that Sarah would have a son, son to him. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, is a child born to a man who is 100 years old? Or is Sarah, who is 90 years old, to bear a child? So he couldn't believe it. So this is, this just shows you. This just shows you that 99 was, was 99. Like it was 99 then is how we see 99 now. And this is generations after the time of Noah. This is a few generations down. And this is when that curse started to kick in. This is when that curse started to kick in of not living over 120. I believe the curse was given. Yeah, praise Yah. As soon as I turn the page, my finger lands right on it. So the curse was given in chapter 6, verse 3. Where it says, and Yahuwah said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever in his going astray. He is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. So this is when that word started kicking in, like when days, started getting short for the people. And instead of, extending into, 500 years old and 900 years old. No, now we see that, yeah, age is starting to kick in. That 120, that word of, us not exceeding 120 is starting to kick in. It's starting to, it's starting to show on Abraham and Sarah, to the point they can't believe they can have a child at that age. When in the times of Enoch and others who lived 300 years old and, were able to have children, this in their 70s, this is, things change after the Most High, said what he said. It started that you see that what he said is starting to reflect now. What he said about 120 years being the limit for, mankind, for people, we starting to see that that's starting to reflect, and where are we? So this is what Abraham, he just said to himself. This is what led Abraham to say to himself, is a child born to a man who is 100 years old, or is Sarah, who is 90 years old, to bear a child? So he was 100 and Sarah was 90. We see that they were 10 years apart. There was a 10-year age gap. Verse 18, and Abraham said to Elohim, "Oh, let Ishmael live before you." Verse 19, and Elohim said, "No, Sarah, your wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yishak, and I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him." So Abraham, he was so shocked by what he was hearing that he was like he felt driven to correct or assure the Most High, like, yeah, let Ishmael, his first son that he had with Hagar, with the servant of Sarah, yeah, let Ishmael, live before you. Like, basically, no, like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, yeah, like, Ishmael was born of Hagar, but he's technically, Sarah's child as well. So the Most High had to, like, let him know, like, assure him, like, yo, no, I'm talking about Sarah having her own child. And when she has her own this own son, you should call his name Yishak, meaning Isaac. That's Yishak. And I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. Verse 20, and as for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall bless him and shall make him fruitful and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. So 12 princes are to come from Ishmael. 12 princes are to come from Ishmael. And Ishmael, will be known as a great nation. The Most High said he will make him a great nation, which will bring forth 12 princes. So let's keep that in mind. So we know that princes have come from Ishmael and likely to be still the bloodline of Ishmael in these princes are likely to be princes to this day, kings to this day. Verse 20, and as for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall bless him and shall make him fruitful and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. Verse 21, but my covenant I establish with Yishak, with Isaac, whom Sarah is to bear to you at this appointed time next year. So he's telling them she should, give birth to Isaac next year. Verse 22. And when he had ended speaking with him, Elohim went up from Abraham. So the Most High went up from Abraham. Like, he didn't fade to black. He didn't fade into, or disappear. It is said that he went up. I don't know if Abraham could see him go up. Maybe he was just hearing his voice, but it just, the description of his exit was him going up. Elohim went up from Abraham. Verse 23, and Abraham took Ishmael, his son, and all those born in his house, and all those bought with his silver, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin that same day, as Elohim told him. Verse 24, and Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Verse 25, and Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Verse 26, Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised that same day. So Abraham had a 13-year relationship with Ishmael. We see this. He wasn't a castaway. He was a son of Abraham. And even though the Most High established his covenant with Yishak, with Isaac, we see that not only was, Ishmael with Abraham until he was, up until what we see 13 years old, but we see he was foreskinned. He was circumcised. He circumcised Ishmael on the same day he circumcised himself. So the circumcision established a covenant. Verse 26, and Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised that same day. Verse 27, and all the men of his house born in the house or bought with silver from a foreigner were circumcised with him. Chapter 18, verse 1. And Yahuwah appeared to him by the terebinth tree. And Yahuwah appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre, while he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. Verse 2. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and saw 3 men standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the ground. So what Abraham saw was obviously enough for him to feel the need to bow down to these 3 men. And let's continue reading to see why. Verse 3, and said, so he bowed himself to the ground. Verse 3, and said, Yahuwah, if I have now found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Verse 4, please let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. So he's calling either all of these men Yahuwah or one of these men Yahuwah. Let's continue to reading. Verse 5. And these men are men that he's calling Yahuwah, and he's offering to wash their feet. And this is interesting. So it's appearing to be saying that the Most High took the form of either one of these men or all three of these men. Verse 5, and let me bring a piece of bread and refresh your hearts. And then go on, for this is why you have come to your servant. And they said, do as you have said. So not only is he trying to wash the feet of these men who is appearing to be the Most High, Yahuwah himself, but he's also offering them food. So this might be three men that took the form of Yahuwah, took the form of Yah, or one of the men. I want to say all three. Yahuwah took the form of these men. So they said, do what you feel you feel driven to do. So verse 6, so Abraham ran into the tent to Sarah and said, hurry, make ready 3 measures of fine flour, knead it and make cakes. Verse 7, and Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender and good calf, gave it to a young man, and he hurried to prepare it. So he gave it to a young man to obviously, prepare this calf. And he told, Sarah to make some cake. Verse 8, and he took curds and milk and the calf which he had prepared and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree as they ate. So these were men that Abraham believed Yah, Most High himself, took the form of. And now they're eating his food. These men who appear to be the Most High, Yahuwah, is eating the food prepared by Sarah and Abraham and this young man. Verse 9, and they said to him, where is Sarah, your wife? And he said, see, in the tent. Verse 10, and he said, I shall certainly return to you according to the time of life. And see, Sarah, your wife, is to have a son. And Sarah was listening in the tent door, which was behind him. So it says, they said to him, where is Sarah? Like they spoke in sync as one. Like they spoke in sync as one and asked him, where is Sarah, your wife? And then it says, he said, I shall certainly return you according to the time of life. So he said, referring to Yahuwah, making these three men speak as one, speak for him as one in sync. Which is when you really like dissect the line, the verses, is really crazy. And he said, I shall certainly return to you according to the time of life. And see, Sarah, your wife, is to have a son. And Sarah was listening in the tent door, which was behind him. Verse 11, now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah was past the way of a woman. Sarah was past the way of a woman. So we see here, there's a way of a woman that, makes them about do. Meaning, this appears to hint at menopause, where, eggs are no longer available. So this is a good indication of that. I want to leave a mark. I want to mark this because I usually mark up, pointers, and this is like a pointer that's worthy of a mark. This is what the scriptures described as the way of the woman. Describe menopause as the way of the woman. So that's worthy of a jot. The way of the woman, she well past. So not they didn't describe it as the way of the woman. She was past the way of the woman. The way of the woman is likely her monthly cycle. So yeah, that's the way of the woman. That's what is describing. Sarah was past that point into, what we know as menopause now. At her age, at an age of 90. Verse 12, and Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have grown old, shall I have pleasure? My master being old too? So even if it was unbelievable, it was laughable. It was even laughable to Sarah. See, when Abraham laughed about it, it was laughable to him. But we see that Sarah laughed as well, found it, hard to believe, to the point she laughed, within herself. And this is how the Most High responded. Verse 13, and Yahuwah said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I truly have a child since I am old? So he's asking Abraham, so why does she laugh? Like, why is she laughing? She don't know. She don't know what I do. She don't know what I'm capable of. You better tell her about me. You know what I mean? Let her know, like, I do this. So he's asking Abraham. He's not asking her. He's asking Abraham, like, why is she laughing? Like, what's she find funny? Was it something funny? Yo. So he's asking Abraham, like, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I truly have a child since I am grown old? And mind you, she said this within herself. She said this within herself. She didn't laugh out loud, and she didn't say this out loud. So this is truly the Most High, taking the form of these three men. Verse 14, because they have the ability to know what Sarah laughed at and what she, to know that Sarah laughed within herself and what she was laughing about. Verse 13, and Yahuwah said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I truly have a child since I am old? Verse 14, is any matter too hard for Yahuwah? Is any matter too hard for Yahuwah? Is any matter too hard for Yah? At the appointed time, I am going to return you. I am going to return to you. Sorry, I'm going to return to you according to the time of life. And Sarah is to have a son. This is what the Most High is saying. Like, man, like, listen, is anything too hard for me? Sarah gonna have this son. She gonna have this child. She like, I do this. Like, I said what I said. Like, this ain't a game. I ain't laughing. Is any matter too hard for Yahuwah? Like, basically, like, man, listen. At this time, I'm going to return to you and according to the time of life. And Sarah is to have this son. Verse 15. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, no, but you did laugh. Yeah, the Most High said, no, you did laugh. Like, cut the crap. Like this, she was afraid. She, didn't want to, offend the Most High, So she tried to backtrack and cover it up. And she believed, since she didn't laugh out loud, that it wasn't known that she laughed. And this is where her integrity was pretty much in question. On a small scale. Verse 16, and the men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to send them away. Verse 17, and Yahuwah said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Verse 18, since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Verse 19, for I have known him so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yahuwah, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that Yahuwah brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. So this is the way of Yahuwah. The way of Yahuwah is to do righteousness. What is to do righteousness? Is to be obedient, to follow the instructions of God, to obey the spiritual laws of God, and do what is right. Do what is right. Do what is fair. Do what is right. Do what is fair. This is the way of Yah, so that Yah brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. Verse 20, and Yahuwah said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very heavy. Verse 21, I am going down now to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me. And if not, I know. So he's clearly speaking on an outcry that he received, that he heard, that he's going to go address, to the point he had to take the form of three men to do so. Verse 22, so the men turned away from there and went towards Sodom, but Yahuwah still stood before Abraham. So there we are. There we go. The men departed. So the men turned away. That the men that were with Yahuwah turned away from there and went towards Sodom. But Yahuwah himself, which was one of these men, still stood before Abraham. In what form? In the form of a man. In the form of a man that ate cake. In the form of a man that ate cake, and in the form of a man that ate, you know, some what is it, a calf, you know, ate a prepared calf, you know. So yeah, this is interesting. Yahuwah stood before Abraham in the form of one of these men. But the other two men went to Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 23, and Abraham drew near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wrong? So somehow Abraham knew what was going on. Abraham became knowing what was going on. Verse 24, suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? So these are the 50. When you hear righteous, always equate that to obedient. Verse 25, far be it from you to act in this way, to slay the righteous with the wrong, so that the righteous should be as the wrong. Far be it from you. He yelled this, far be it from you. So he's like raising his voice to the Most High, you know, now that the Most High is taking the form of a man. Abraham feel, you know, he's feeling himself enough to raise his voice and reasoning with the Most High. So he's saying, you know, he says, does the judge of all the earth not do right? Verse 26, and Yahuwah said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I shall spare all the place for their sakes. Verse 27, and Abraham answered and said, look, please, I who am but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahuwah. So he's humbled himself, like he dialed it back and basically humbled himself and acknowledged himself to be dust, you know, and ashes. And, you know, speaking to Yahuwah, who's taking this form of a man, by the way. Let's keep this in mind, because this is why this is heavy. Verse 28. Suppose there are 5 less than the 50 righteous. Would you destroy all of the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 45, I do not destroy it. Verse 29, and he spoke to him yet again and said, suppose there are found 40. And he said, I would not do it for the sake of 40. Verse 30, and he said, let not Yahuwah be displeased, and let me speak. Suppose there are found 30. And he said, I would not do it if I find 30. So as he's pushing the number down, as Abraham is pushing the number down, he's being careful to humble himself before the Most High. And basically he had to, you know, let Yah know, like, let not Yahuwah be displeased with me as I, as I negotiate, you know. But if you find 30, then what? And he said, I would not do it if I find 30. Verse 31, and he's talking about righteous men, obedient men. Verse 31, and he said, look, please, I have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahuwah. Suppose there are found 20. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 20. So he's humbling himself, you know, before the presence of Yah, like, look, please, I have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahuwah. Verse 32. And he said, let not Yahuwah be displeased, and let me speak only this time. Suppose there are found 10. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 10. So he's careful to humble himself each time he's pushing his limit and negotiating with the Most High Yah, who's taking the form of this man. Verse 33. Then Yahuwah went away as soon as he had ended speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So the Most High left Abraham on foot as this man, in the form of this man. Now, you got most believe that this was the only begotten son, but I'm not going that far. I'm not going to go as far as say that. I'm going to take the verses in the verses in the chapter for face value and what is how, you know, what was read, what was actually written. This was Yahuwah who've taken the form of these men, of this man. You know, no name, just men who was clearly known to, immediately known to be Yahuwah in the eyes of Abraham. Abraham, you know, he immediately recognized the man and the men as Yahuwah in the flesh. So I'm not going as far as to say this was Messiah, because clearly Messiah was born and prophesied to be born, and there's no record or, you know, nothing to definitively, you know, draw the conclusion that this was Yahushua HaMashiach, the Son of God. Chapter 19, verse 1. And the two messengers came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. And when Lot saw them, he rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. So now this is explaining how these men were messengers. They were angels. Now we have clarification that these two men that left Yahuwah behind. These two men were angels. These two men were messengers. And even Lot recognized them like as messengers, to the point he immediately bowed down to them in their presence. Verse 2, and he said, look, please, my masters, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet and rise early and go your way. And they said, no, but let us spend the night in the open square. So these are messengers with feet that need to be washed, mind you. These are angels with feet that need to be washed. Angels of the Most High with feet that need to be washed. Just to, you know, make that clear. Verse 3, but he urged them strongly, and they turned into him and came into his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. So we see that unleavened bread was a thing. Before, you know, unleavened bread was a thing before having to leave Egypt. Moses having to leave Egypt. We see that unleavened bread was a thing. This was an item. This was a food. This was on the menu. At least for the messengers, at least for the angels. Because we see When Moses ate the unleavened bread, it was it made it seem like it was the only reason of eating this unleavened bread because they were running in haste. They had to get out in haste, so the bread could not leaven. But we see that unleavened bread was a thing before, Moses even existed. And it was fed to two angels, two messengers. Verse 4, before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every part surrounded the house. So word got around that these angels was in the house of Lot, and they circled the house. And here's what happens next. Verse 5, and they called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us and let us know them, like know them intimately. This is what these creeps was looking to like do with these angels. They wanted to know the angels. Maybe they heard the angels slept with their women and was into their women, and for some weird reason thought that they were into them too, into men as well. I don't think the angels ruled that way. I don't think that was they twist. You know, the women, cool, but no, So these men was like thinking, they was thinking different. They wasn't thinking right. These was different kind of men. Granted, mind you, this is Sodom. This is where the word sodomize come from. It's come from Sodom. This is where the root word sodomize come from, and this is what these men were into. They were extra strange, extra wicked, extra evil. Seeking to, to the point they were seeking to do evil and have intimate relations with these male angels, not female angels, male angels. These were clearly male angels, and these men of Sodom were looking to lay down with these men. They wasn't with it, man. The angels wasn't with it. They like, no, like this is what happened. Let's see what happened. How this played out. So this is what they said. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every part surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us and let us know them. Let us do what? Verse 6. So Lot went out to them through the doorway and shut the door behind him. Verse 7, and said, please, my brothers, do not do evil. Please, my brothers, do not do this evil that's on your mind, that's on your mental. Do not. What are y'all? What's y'all thing, man? What y'all wilding? This is basically what Lot is like begging them, like not to be into this. Verse 8. Look, please, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please, let me bring them out to you and do to them as you wish. Only do not deed to these men, because they have come under the shadow of my roof. Like he's going as far as to offer his daughters to these men. Remember, these were old and young men. So he's going as far as to offer his daughters to these men who's creeped out of their minds, creepy, freaky young and old men of Sodom. He's going as far as to offer his daughters, who were maidens, who were virgins. He's going, like, Lot is going as far as offer his virgin daughters to them to protect the angels, to protect these male angels. You know who he invited into his home. Verse 9. But they said, stand back. And they said, this one came into Sodom, and should he always judge? Now we are going to treat you worse than them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot and came near to break down the door. So they was offended. They were so creepy and freaky that they were offended by Lot offering them his daughters. Like, they wanted what they wanted. They wanted the male angels. And that just shows you how rotten, wicked, and evil they were, to the point. This is why it reached the heavens. This is why it reached the Most High, how evil these people were. This is why people crying out, reached to the Most High, to the point he had to take the form of men to come do something, to take the form of men and angels who appear to be men, to do something about these people. Like, y'all, wow. This man just offered his 2 virgin daughters, but you took it as an insult. That you took the offer as an insult, and instead, threatened to do what you wanted to do to the angels to him now. Now they going as far as trying to break the man door down. Verse 10. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. So the angels yanked them in, like, man, get in here, man. They about to tear you up. Verse 11. Then they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, and they wearied themselves to find a door. So clearly these were angels with powers, supernatural powers, to the point they struck the men with blindness. So this shows you that angels have the power and ability, of Yah, of the authority of Yah to do these things, to strike people with blindness and make them go blind. We later see what happened to Paul, and when Paul was, struck with blindness. So this is one of their superpowers, is to make you go blind. Verse 12. And the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here, a son-in-law, and your sons, and your daughters, and whomever you have in the city? Bring them out of this place. So this is what the angels were saying to him, like, like, yo, have you anyone else here? Like, bring everybody out of here. We about to tear this thing. We about to tear this thing down. Verse 13. For we are going to destroy this place, because the cry against them has grown great before the face of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah has sent us to destroy it. So they came to do work. They came to put an end to Sodom. Like, they came to put an end to all the freaky stuff. Like, it was enough. Enough was enough. Verse 14. And Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who had married his daughters, and said, get up, get out of this place, for Yahuwah is going to destroy this city. But to his sons-in-law, he seemed to be as one joking. So come to find out, man, his daughters were engaged to these men. And here it is, he trying to offer them his engaged daughters to these men who want men, who had no interest in their daughters, in his daughters. And now the men and the sons-in-law that who his daughters were engaged to, they like, man, chill out, old head. Like, you tripping right now, man. What are you like? They not taking them seriously. They basically tell him to sit down somewhere, man, with all that, with all that nonsense. Like that, there ain't no angels coming to destroy nothing. Like, what are we talking about right now? So they didn't believe him. They thought he was joking. Verse 15, and when morning dawned, the messengers urged Lot to hurry, saying, get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. So they were basically, so the sons-in-law was no longer included. They thought it was a joke. They got left behind. We're going to see how that played out later. Verse 16, and while he loitered, the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand and the hands of his 2 daughters. Yahuwah having compassion on him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. So this was the compassion of Yahuwah that got him and his family up out of there. It was the compassion of Yahuwah that got Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters out of Sodom before it got destroyed. The compassion. We're going to see how compassion has always been consistent. The Most High has always had compassion, shown compassion for his people. Verse 17, and it came to be when they had brought them outside that he said, escape for your life. This is what the angels told him. Like, and it came to be when they had brought them outside that he said, this is what the Most High said, because it said escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be consumed. So we basically let them know, yo, don't look back. It's over for this place. Don't even look back. Verse 18, and Lot said to them, oh no, Yahuwah. Verse 19, look, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have increased your loving commitment, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I am unable to escape to the mountains, lest calamity overtake me and I die. Verse 20, look, please, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there. Is it not a small matter? And let my life be saved. Verse 21, and he said to him, look, I have favored you concerning this matter also, without overthrowing this city for which you have spoken. Verse 22, hurry, escape there, for I am not able to do any deed until you arrive there. So the name of the city was called Seor. Verse 23, the sun has risen up. The sun has risen upon the earth when Lot entered Seor. Verse 24, and Yahuwah rained sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahuwah out of the heavens. So it was the sun was up when this went down. I know we may recall watching movies of it being dark when Sodom and Gomorrah was getting destroyed. But we see in the writings, in the scriptures, in the documents, that the sun was up when this went down, when the sulfur went down, when the sulfur and fire went down on Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 25, so he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. Like the ground was even damaged, destroyed. Verse 26, but his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a post of salt. A post of salt. Like, she became like a statue. I remember thinking that she became a pillar of salt or something like that. I don't know where I got that from. But she actually became a statue of salt just by looking back. It turned her into a statue of salt. Probably somewhere to this day. Looking back. Verse 27, and Abraham arose early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before Yahuwah. Verse 28, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain. And he looked and saw the smoke of the land which went up like the smoke of a furnace. Verse 29, thus it came to be when Elohim destroyed the cities of the plain that Elohim remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. And he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. So it was like somebody that was righteous, obviously Lot. So it was enough for him to keep his word, you know, that he made with Abraham. With Abraham, like, you know, the 20, if it's 20 righteous, would you still destroy it? It was at least one, and that was Lot. Verse 30, and Lot went up out of Seir and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Seir, and he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. So he was afraid to be there to the point he was hiding in this cave. Verse 31, and the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come into us, as is the way of all the earth. So this just shows you how much time they were away from people. And as far as like the daughters, like these were naive young women who never known a man and felt the need to know a man before they got old or it was too late. You know, they felt the need that they had to know a man. They had to lose their virginity or have children by any means necessary, to the point they started to plot on their own father in this cave. He obviously was losing their mind in this cave. They just to the point that this came to their mind. And the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no man on earth to come into us, as is the way of all the earth. Verse 32, come, let us make our father drink wine and lie with him, so that we preserve the seed of our father. This is what the cave has done to the minds of these 2 young women. Dwelling in these caves, I don't know what, gotten into them. They obviously they started to lose it. They started to lose their minds, to come up with this. because they were in a city called Sora. So they could have found someone in Sora. They could have found young men in Sora. But I guess Lot was so strict and afraid that this kind of caused him. This led his daughter. He was so strict and afraid and overprotective of his daughters that they weren't allowed to leave him and leave his sight and leave this cave that they were in. To the point it kind of backfired on Lot because his own daughters plotted and got him drunk. And this is what happened. Come, let us make our father drink wine and lie with him so that we preserve the seed of our father. Verse 33. So they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. That's how drunk they got him. That's how pure the wine was. That's how strong the wine was. He didn't know that they jumped on him. She obviously jumped on him, and that was the younger one. Verse 34. And it came to be on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, see, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight as well. And you go in and lie with him so that we keep the seed of our father. So this is the next night. And the younger one, reminding the older one like it's your turn. They was losing their damn mind, man. Like I don't know. I don't think that was, I don't think that was, obviously it wasn't Lot's plan. It wasn't something Lot would have done or agreed to. But it didn't even matter. It didn't even matter, obviously, because they went and did what they did because they got him drunk. Obviously this was something that Lot wouldn't agree to because they had to get him drunk. They had to get him drunk to the point he was so drunk he obviously passed out. And they figured out how to lay with him while he was passed out. So they made their father drink wine that night as well. And the younger arose and lay with him. And he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she rose. Verse 36. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. Verse 37, and the firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. So these are the Moabite people. And the Moabite people are people of direct incest. Verse 38. And the younger, she also bore a son, and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. So we have the people of Ammon, who's also an offspring of direct, incest. Chapter 20, verse 1. And Abraham set out from there to the land of the south, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and stayed in Gerar. Verse 2. And Abraham said concerning Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech, Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. Verse 3, but Elohim came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, see, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. Like, why do Yah have to intervene? This is the second time Abraham has pulled this stunt. He's pulled it. First, he pulled it in Egypt, where he told, where he told the Pharaoh that that Sarah was his sister in chapter 12. This is the first time he pulled that off. And the Most High had to intervene and basically tell Pharaoh, like, yo, you about to get it. Because the Pharaoh, it says, but Yahuwah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So this is the second time the Most High have to intervene. The first time the Most High had to intervene and put plagues on Pharaoh, when after Abraham lied to Pharaoh saying that this was his sister. I don't know if it was necessarily a lie, because I think it was something like, I think I read something about Sarah actually being his sister-in-law or some sister down the line somewhere. I can't remember. But he wasn't actually, I mean, he was telling the truth in some form, which was kind of weird now that I think about it. But this was the time, these were the times of, reproducing and needing to reproduce and fill the earth, be fruitful. This was the beginning of being fruitful. I mean, I don't want to put too much justification on it, but that's just to make sense and rationalize that this was the beginning of civilization. So this is this what was being done. The people were finding them. I can't excuse what the daughters of Lot did. Like, that was inexcusable. But what Abraham and Sarah, they were like distant relative siblings, I guess, and the Most High didn't have a problem with it. So who am I to judge the beginning of civilization, the beginning of being fruitful, trying to let's move on. However, so here we go again, Abraham lying, not lying, lying but not lying, because she may be a relative of his, but she's his wife. But he's disclosing, he's not disclosing that information. He's withholding the information that of Sarah being his wife, and is leading these rulers. This is the second ruler that's led to take his wife, and Elohim, the Most High, having to intervene, like, tell this man, yo, you a dead man. This is what the Most High told him. Like, you're a dead man, because you took this man. This woman belongs to Sarah. So verse 4, it says, however, Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Yahuwah, would you kill a righteous nation also? So Abimelech was like, yo, man, he was actually innocent. He may have had intentions on taking Sarah, but he didn't do nothing with her. So he basically trying to make his play. he tried to cop the plea yo, ho, you know, man, you know, Most High. You're like, he's like, this is his plea to the Most High. He's like, this is the king's plea. He's like, however, Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Yahuwah. So he knew Yahuwah by name. Yahuwah, would you kill a righteous nation also? So Abimelech obviously, you know, was ruler over a righteous nation. Verse 5. Excuse me. Did he not say to me, she is my sister? Yeah, exactly. This is what he's trying to make his case before the Most High, like before Yahuwah. Like, yo, did he not say to me that she was? Did he not say to me that she was his sister? Like, cool. Like, you know what I mean? Let's think about this. Like, he told me that was his sister. That's the only reason I pursued her. Like, he made me believe that she was his sister. He's making this case. He's making this case to Yah, like with his life depending on it. Like, and I feel him like, yo, like, oh, wait just a minute. Wait just a minute, Yah. Did he not say to me, she is my sister? And even she herself said, he is my brother. So not only did Abraham say that Sarah was his sister, but now Sarah was in on it. Now Sarah was going along with it and saying that Abraham was her brother. So what kind of, man, listen. So this man, he's bringing this whole case, like he got the receipts. He like, yo, listen, like he bringing all his evidence in court. Like, not only did he tell me she was his sister, but she told me he was her brother. In the integrity of my heart and in the innocence of my hands, I have done this. That's a pretty strong argument, man. That's a pretty strong case he made for himself. Like, verse 6. And Elohim said to him in a dream, yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart. And so I kept you from sinning against me. For this reason, I did not let you touch her. So even then, people's wives were hands off. Let's not overlook that. Even then, the wives of men, they were hands off. The Most High wasn't going for it. This was before this was before Moses came along. This is before Moses came along and, you know, formally put the instructions of God in writing. Like, even before Moses, you weren't to touch another man's wife. And it doesn't say anything about another man, you know, having other wives and that being, you know, forbidden. It's what we see to be a definitive no was a man having another man's wife, especially a man of Yah. You know, having a man of Yah, a man of Yah's wife. Verse 7. And now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and let him pray for you, and you live. But if you do not return her, know that you shall certainly die. You and all that are yours. So he let it be clear, let it be known, like this man is a prophet. This is another pointer. Abraham was known as a prophet. It is documented. Abraham was known as a prophet, was called the prophet by the Most High himself. He was called a prophet. It was documented that Abraham was called a prophet by the Most High himself. And we see this in the book of Genesis, chapter 20, verse 7. 8. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and spoke all these words in their hearing. And the men were greatly frightened. Verse 9. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what have you done to us? And what have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and on my reign a great sin? You have done matters to me that should not be done. Verse 10, and Abimelech said to Abraham, what did you have in view that you have done this matter? Like, basically, like, what was you thinking? Like, bro, what did I do to you for you to, like, try to bring me harm, bring this danger on me, bring this, you know, like, what did I do to you? What was on your mind? What was you think? Where did you think this was going to go? How did you think this was going to play out? What if something happened with me and your wife? Like, you was going, like, you was just going to let that go down? What were you thinking? Basically what he's asking him. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what do you have in view that you have done this matter? Verse 11, and Abraham said, only because I said to myself, the fear of Elohim is not in this place, and they shall kill me for the sake of my wife. So this is Abraham responding like, man, like, y'all not men of God. I didn't think y'all were men of God. I didn't think y'all were righteous men or righteous people, or y'all didn't think y'all were a people of integrity. That y'all could care. Y'all didn't care. He pretty much thought these people were savages. He thought these people were, wicked, evil, and men without integrity. And he was clearly wrong. He was clearly mistaken. These men, had some kind of honor, some kind of principle and moral to them, obviously. Verse 12, and yet she is truly my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. So here we go. He wasn't lying. They weren't making this up. They were technically siblings. They're technically siblings. They're like, they have the same father, but not the same mother. The same father, but not the same mother. And I'm not sure how different that makes it, but okay. I guess they didn't come from the same womb. That's what makes it different. Not different, though. And yet, she is truly my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. Verse 13, and it came to be, when Elohim caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, This is your loving commitment that you should do for me in every place, wherever we go. Say of me, he is my brother. Verse 14, then Abimelech took sheep and cattle and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham. And he returned Sarah, his wife, to him. Like, he's racking up. He's racking up on everybody he does this to. Pharaoh felt the need to do the same thing, send him away with cattle and servants. And this is what led to him becoming wealthy and, having a lot. Now, granted, the Most High very well have, it was the dealing of the Most High that blessed him with all he had. But what it appeared to be that Pharaoh laced him up, and this is when, and it wasn't until Pharaoh laced him up with everything till he was written and documented to be known to have a lot going on for himself. He left his father with nothing. I don't believe he left his father with much or anything close to what he had after leaving Pharaoh, and having even more after leaving this king. Sent on his way with servants, female servants and male servants, and sheep and cattle. So even more wealth. Verse 15, and Abimelech said, see, my land is before you. Dwell wherever it is good in your eyes. Verse 16, and to Sarah he said, see, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. 1,000 pieces of silver. How much ever that worth was, I'm pretty sure a lot. See, it is to you a covering of eyes before all who are with you and before all others, and you are cleared before everyone. So he's making it known to everyone that, this is this man's wife, not his sister. And letting it be known to Abraham, like, you got nothing to fear for you to feel the need to do this again to anybody else. For you to feel the need to trick anybody else into conceiving the fact that, this is your wife. And it almost costing someone their life, to the point the Most High have to intervene. Verse 17, and Abraham prayed to Elohim, and Elohim healed Abimelech and his wife and his female servants. So they bore children. So Abimelech had a wife already. Like, hold up, man. Hold up, man. Abimelech had a wife already. Like, he already had a wife, and he was trying to pull Abraham, his wife, like, he was trying to pull Sarah as well. So at the very end of this chapter, it shows that the whole time Abimelech had a wife. I don't know if it was the whole time, but I'm willing to bet it was the whole time. And Abraham prayed to Elohim, and Elohim healed Abimelech and his wife and his female servants. So they bore children. So he healed them. He healed Abimelech and healed his wife from whatever curse was on them, and his female servants. So he had, not only did he have a wife, he had female servants. He had female servants, and they were able to bore children for him. They was able to bore children. I don't know if the female servants, I'm assuming that they were children of his. They were able to bear children of his. Verse 18, for Yahuwah had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech. There we go. Because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So that's what happened, like the Most High closed up the wombs of Abimelech. And yeah, it wasn't no bearing no children. And that was that's what led to, Abraham needing to pray for Abimelech, and the Most High, coming to undo that. That was the end of that. That was the end of the book of. That was the end of that Torah reading, the book of Genesis, chapter 17 through 20. I'm gonna close this live out and pick up in the book of Isaiah. And yeah, so bear with me. Come back, y'all willing, you're able to, pull back up. But peace, love, shalom, Shabbat shalom, peace, and love.